Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are exploring a bit of a paradox. We're looking at a singer who is nonverbal, a man institutionalized for his lack of agency, who then becomes this master tactician of guerrilla warfare against that very system.
And we're looking at an album that, on the surface, just seems like a musical project.
Right.
But it's actually, I would argue, a survival manual. It really is.
So we're breaking down the concept album Artistry by an artist known as Snoopi Botten.
And if you just, glance at the name, you might think whimsical.
Totally. Snoopi Botten. It sounds like a cartoon character.
Exactly. But what's inside is one of the most intense deconstructions of disability, technology, and the American healthcare system I think I have ever come across.
The source material we have is just fascinating. We've got the lyrics, obviously.
Sure.
But we also have production notes on how the music was physically built and these personal narratives behind 13 specific tracks.
And I think our mission here is to figure out how this man, who was basically written off by doctors before he could even speak, managed to force a multi-million-dollar hospital system to bend to his will. It's a story about hacking the system in the most literal sense.
Finding the bugs in the code of society and exploiting them.
To survive.
Okay, let's jump right in. We have to start with his identity. Track 1 is titled The Acronym. And you mentioned the name sounds whimsical, but this track reveals it's actually a code.
It is.
Yeah.
And this really sets the tone for the whole project. Nothing is accidental. He didn't just pick a stage name because it sounded cute. He engineered it.
So the first part, SNOOPI.
It stands for Someone Needs One Other Person Indefinitely.
Wow. I mean, that is such a heavy concept to drop in the very first measure.
It is.
Someone needs one other person indefinitely. It just completely rejects that American myth of the self-made man, doesn't it?
Completely. He's establishing a baseline of interdependence from the jump. He's saying, I'm not an island. None of us are.
In a culture that idolizes independence, he's starting with the premise that we're designed to need each other.
But then he contrasts that with the second part of the name, the last name, Botten.
I have it here because of the tiny emotional nails.
And this is where the songwriting just gets incredibly visceral. When he talks about tiny emotional nails, he's not talking about the big, obvious traumas.
Not a broken bone.
No. He's talking about the microaggressions, the accumulated weight of all these small cruelties.
The lyrics mention things like a cruel word spoken or the feeling of being ignored in a room. He compares it to a paper cut that just won't heal.
Exactly. He says, it's not the wound that bleeds you see, but the ache that hides in your memory. And just think about the precision of that image. A tiny nail.
Yeah.
It's hard to see, hard to remove, but it pins you down. He's arguing that these invisible wounds were actually what disable a person's spirit far more than cerebral palsy ever could.
And that links right back to the first part of the acronym. If you're full of these tiny nails, you need that one other person to help pull them out.
That's the whole thesis. You can't perform surgery on your own soul. You need community. So track 1 isn't just an intro. It's the philosophical framework for everything.
I am hurt, but I am connected.
Precisely.
Okay, so let's look at who he is structurally. Track 2, The Flame of Hope, gives us the biography. And frankly, the starting conditions described here are brutal.
They are bleak. He was born in Duluth, Minnesota, 1964. The song details that he was institutionalized very early.
Right.
The doctors looked at a child with cerebral palsy and whispered the word starvation. They predicted he would, and this is a quote, never be anything, never learn or grow.
That's terrifying, how quickly the experts decided his ceiling was 0. They wrote the end of his story before he even started chapter 1.
And the home life described isn't much better. He sings about yelling, fear, shame, but, and here's the pivot, he found a loophole.
The school system.
The school system. It became the one place where the nails weren't being hammered in. It's where he learned to read, and crucially, where he learned to code.
We have to stop on the coding aspect, because this defines the sound of the album.
It does.
The production notes mention a technology called Deck Talk.
Ah, yes. Deck Talk.
For those listening who might not be tech historians, what are we dealing with here?
So Deck Talk was a speech synthesizer developed back in the 80s. It's the same voice engine Stephen Hawking made famous.
That very specific robotic cadence?
That's the one. But here's the thing. Today, if you want a computer to sing, you type lyrics into an AI and press generate.
Right. It takes 10 seconds. You give it a prompt.
From 1989 all the way up to 2022, Snoopi was doing this manually.
Manually.
To make Deck Talk sing, You can't just type words. You have to program the phonetics. You have to assign a numerical value to the duration of each sound in milliseconds. You have to assign a pitch frequency to every single syllable.
So he's not just writing lyrics. He's mathematically constructing every single wave of sound.
Every note. It's closer to architecture than songwriting. It is incredibly labor-intensive. When you hear those early tracks, you are hearing thousands of lines of code.
That context just changes everything. It's an act of sheer will. It's defiance encoded in milliseconds.
And it shows his obsession with precision.
Yeah.
His willingness to do the hard work. Which brings us to track 3, Love Wins.
Yeah.
We move from that technical isolation to a very unexpected human connection.
This is the story of his biological father, Roger. And it's not the heartwarming reunion story you usually see. It's much rougher.
No, it's gritty. He meets Roger in 2007. The lyrics describe him as homeless, poor and alone, and suffering from schizophrenia.
A lot of people might have put up a wall there. They might have said, I can't handle this chaos.
But instead, Snoopi writes, he was addicted to drugs, but I was addicted to his hugs.
That line,
Wow.
It floors me every time. Such a total rejection of judgment.
And the core artifact from this relationship is a bumper sticker. Roger gave him a red and white sticker that just read, Love Wins.
It sounds so simple, almost cliche, until you apply it to their reality.
Right. When you are homeless or when you are nonverbal and institutionalized, love wins isn't a cliche.
It's a defiant strategy.
Exactly. It became Snoopi's mantra. It's the calm before the storm.
And the storm definitely comes, because now we move into the second section of the album, tracks 4 through 6. This is where the biography stops and the systemic critique begins.
This is where the guerrilla warfare starts. This is the deep dive into policy. Track 4, Social Security, tackles what economists call the benefits cliff.
Or the trap. The lyrics here are infuriating. He talks about wanting to work, wanting to contribute, but being held hostage.
He sings rules written down, but they don't meet the street. And here's the reality. To survive with severe cerebral palsy, you need expensive gear.
Wheelchairs, communication devices.
Personal care attendants.
Yeah.
The state provides this, but only if you are destitute.
So if he gets a job and earns, what, $1 over the limit?
He loses everything. The cliff is vertical. It's not a sliding scale. He sings, why survival the crime, a constant fight. The system is designed to keep him passive. It rewards helplessness and punishes ambition.
Which explains the frustration that just boils over in the next 2 tracks.
Oh, yeah.
Tracks 5 and 6, simply titled, My Fight.
This is the centerpiece of the album. If this were a movie, this would be the second act climax.
Yeah.
This covers a specific event in 2021, a 10-month standoff with the healthcare system.
Okay, so let's set the scene. He was living independently, but he lost his home care worker.
Right. The labor shortage hits, his aide leaves, and suddenly he can't stay in his home. The system's default answer is, go to a nursing home. They send him to a place called Crawford.
And the album describes this place as dangerous. He mentions specific medical neglect.
He talks about being forced into diapers that caused his skin to bleed because the staff ignored his medical history. He realized this environment was physically breaking him down. He wasn't safe.
So he had to get out. But you can't just check out of a nursing home?
No, not if you have nowhere to go. So he executed a plan. And this is where that master tactician label really applies. He faked a mental health crisis.
He did. He realized the only way to escape the nursing home was to escalate. He screamed, he acted out, he made himself impossible to manage until they had to call 911.
The lyric is, the ambulance came and got me with a smile on my face.
He was smiling because he was escaping to the hospital. But the hospital's just a temporary stop, right? Usually they just send you right back to another nursing home.
Correct. That's the standard protocol. And Snoopi knew that. So once he was at the Cleveland Clinic, he deployed what we can call the poison pill strategy. He had to make himself undesirable to the entire industry.
How do you even do that? How do you make yourself unwanted by a system that wants to warehouse you?
Do you look at their regulations? Nursing homes are private businesses. They want easy patients. They generally reject admission for patients labeled combative or who require physical restraints.
It's a liability.
It's a huge liability. It increases their insurance. It's a staffing nightmare. So Snoopi decided to become a liability.
Intentionally.
Intentionally. He refused to sign their behavioral contracts. When they told him to be quiet, he screamed. When they tried to control him, he fought back. He says, I got busy breaking all the rules.
There's a line where he mentions being restrained, tied down, and he frames it as a victory.
Because it was. He sings, for a nursing home, restraints cannot be found. That's the key right there. By forcing the hospital to restrain him, he created a medical record that guaranteed no nursing home would accept him. He legally weaponized his own behavior.
It made himself radioactive.
Exactly.
That is incredibly high-stakes poker. Because if it fails, you're just restrained in a hospital indefinitely.
And he kept this up for 6 months. The source material says the hospital social workers called every single nursing home in the state of Ohio.
Every single one?
Every single one rejected him because of the behavior he was simulating.
6 months of psychological warfare. The stamina that must take.
It does. But he knew the pressure points. Hospitals run on margins. Snoopi's prolonged stay, occupying a bed that insurance wasn't really paying for, cost the hospital over $500,000.
So the economics finally tipped.
They capitulated. The administrators realized it was literally cheaper to give him what he wanted than to keep fighting. They surrendered. They gave him a computer and a phone, which they'd taken away so he could find his own housing.
But he still needed a place that was accessible.
And here is the ultimate irony. He found a rental house, but it needed a ramp and wider doors. To get him off their books to stop the financial bleeding, the hospital paid a $30,000 grant to modify a private landlord's house for him.
Wow. The system that tried to warehouse him ended up paying for the renovations on his bachelor pad.
That is the victory. And Snoopi summarizes this philosophy in the lyric, "Sometimes doing wrong is needed to get what is right."
He reframed bad behavior as a political tool.
Not as a symptom of his disability.
Right. Which leads perfectly into the next section. The tone shifts here. He's not desperate anymore. He's confident.
Track 7, Steamroller, is pure attitude. He views his wheelchair not as a cage, but as a steamroller.
And he says he's going to flatten the devil.
And the devil here is just anything in his way. Bureaucracy, doubt, pity. There's this great humorous moment where he taunts the devil to lean in close and then just screams Jesus in his ear.
It's mischievous. It shows he hasn't lost his sense of humor.
Not at all. But then track 8, The Tools That Make You Whole, stops being funny and gets philosophical.
This is where he deconstructs what a tool actually is.
I think this is the intellectual high watermark of the album. Society often looks at a wheelchair or a speech device and sees a crutch. Dependency.
Yeah.
Snoopi flips the script. He compares his devices to electricity and the internet. He says, take away electricity and folks can't live a day.
He's asking the listener, are you dependent because you need the power grid? Are you disabled because you can't do math without your phone?
Exactly. He's arguing that we are all cyborgs. We all use tools to bridge the gap between what we want to do and what our bodies can do.
Right.
He says, a tool is not a weakness. Access is the difference between the locked out and the bold. For him, the wheelchair isn't a symbol of brokenness.
It's the technology that lets his inner fire out.
The measure of a person isn't walking, it's the fire they bear. It's a profound reframing. Independence is a myth. It's all about having the right tools.
So we've covered the history, the battle, the philosophy. The final section of the album pivots to the spiritual. This is where he explains the Artistry title.
Track 9, Artistry, uses the metaphor of a painter. But the canvas is his own body.
Right.
He compares his spasms, his tremors, even drool to brushstrokes.
Don't judge a cover till the pages are speaking. It's a radical acceptance.
It challenges the theological idea that disability is a mistake or a punishment. He's saying God is the artist, and the imperfections are actually stylistic choices. They're part of the design.
And he expands on this in track 10, God's Masterpiece, with this roll call of historical figures.
He lists Joni Eareckson Tada, who is paralyzed and paints with her mouth. Fanny Crosby, the blind songwriter. Helen Keller. David Ring.
What's the thread connecting them?
The idea that they didn't succeed despite their limitations. Their limitations were the mechanism of their insight. He says they opened heaven's door.
If Fanny Crosby could see, would she have written Blessed Assurance?
Maybe not. He places himself in that lineage.
Then he turns his attention outward in track 11, No Limitations. This feels like a direct address to parents.
It is. He's speaking to parents who just got a diagnosis for their child and are terrified. He's bridging the practical and the spiritual. He lists the tools, sign language, AAC devices, but he frames them with this theological comfort. God knew your child at the moment you conceived. He's trying to preempt the grief.
He's saying, this isn't a tragedy, it's just a different operating system. Here are the manuals.
And he loves playing with language to make these points stick. Track 12, God is Able, is a great little wordplay puzzle.
He takes the word disabled.
And he adds 2 letters, G and O, and rearranges it. Disabled becomes God is able.
It's a bit of Sunday school logic, sure, but for someone who has that label stamped on every file, hacking that word is a way of reclaiming power over it.
For sure.
Finally, the album closes with track 13, Try. After all the complexity in theology, the ending is surprisingly simple.
It's almost a chant. It's repetitive. He compares life to learning your ABCs. You mess up, you start over. Just keep moving forward and try.
Why end there? Why not on a big crescendo?
Because that is the reality of the life he fought for. You defeat the hospital, you get the ramp built, and then you wake up on Tuesday. And you still have cerebral palsy. You still have to exert massive effort.
The battle wasn't to eliminate the struggle. It was to earn the right to struggle on your own terms.
Exactly. Try grounds the whole album. It acknowledges that the steamroller still has to roll up that ramp every single day.
So when we zoom out and look at artistry as a whole, what's the takeaway for the listener who might not be navigating this specific system?
I think it's a masterclass in agency. Think about the trajectory. The world gave Snoopi Botten a script. The script said, "You are a tiny emotional nail. You are a passive object to be warehoused."
And he burned that script.
He didn't just burn it. He wrote a new one in code. He used every available lever, technology, law, psychology, faith, to force the world to reshape itself around him.
I keep going back to that $30,000 ramp. The institution that wanted to hide him ended up building the infrastructure for his freedom.
That is the deep dive nugget. Systems are designed for compliance. They're designed for the average. When you are an anomaly, the system tries to flatten you. Snoopi showed that if you're stubborn enough and smart enough and willing to be a problem, you can flatten the system instead.
It forces us to ask ourselves, in our own lives, where are we signing behavioral contracts that we shouldn't be signing?
Precisely. When the world tells you no or wait or stay in your lane, do you accept it? Or is it time to become a steamroller to get what is right?
A powerful question to leave us with. Snoopi Botten showed us that sometimes you have to be the bad behavior to find the good solution.
And as the bumper sticker says, in the end,
love wins. Thanks for listening.